Assalamu alaikum, this is Maria Zulfikar welcoming you all to the English news from BTV Chattogram. Let's begin with the headlines. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus describes a trade deal with United States diplomatic victory as US settles a tariff at 20%. Necessary measures to be taken to renovate historic dighis and reclaim encroached parts of Hattazari, says Chief Advisor's Principal Secretary. Israeli military kills at least 51, including 23 seeking aid in attacks across Gaza. And Pakistan beat West Indies by 14 runs in first T20 of three-match series in USA. Viewers, those were the headlines. Now moving on to the details. In April, the U.S. administration informed Bangladesh via letter about a proposed 35% counter tariff. Since then, discussions have been held between the two countries. As a result of these negotiations, the United States reduced the tariff by 15%, settling at 20%. Yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump announced the new tariff rate through an executive order. Prior to this, the final round of negotiations took place in Washington, D.C., between the Bangladeshi delegation and the U.S. Trade Representative. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus described the historic trade deal with the United States as a diplomatic victory for Bangladesh. In his response, he congratulated the Bangladeshi tariff negotiation team for successfully concluding the agreement. He stated being able to reduce the tariff to 20%, which is 17 percentage points lower than the initially proposed rate, demonstrates our negotiation team's exceptional strategic competence and unwavering commitment to protecting our national economic interests. The deal maintains Bangladesh's comparative advantage, expands its access to the world's largest consumer market, and strongly safeguards national interests. The Bangladeshi delegation in Washington, D.C. was led by Commerce Advisor Sheikh Bashiruddin. He said there is no fear of disruption to our exports to the U.S. Bangladesh will remain in a competitive position. However, he acknowledged they had hoped for a tariff rate below 20%. Dr. Khalilur Rahman, chief negotiator and national security advisor, stated that Bangladesh had successfully avoided the potential 35% counter tariff. He added, "This is undoubtedly good news for the country's garment sector and the millions of workers who depend on it." Dr. Khalilur Rahman further mentioned that the negotiations allowed Bangladesh to maintain its global competitiveness and expand access to the U.S. market, the largest consumer base in the world. As part of the deal, Bangladesh has also agreed to import agricultural products from the U.S., which will not only enhance food security but also strengthen relations with American states involved in agricultural production. On the same day, President Donald Trump announced new tariff rates on imports from 70 countries, ranging from 10% to a maximum of 41%. Bangladesh received a 20% tariff rate, similar to key competitors in the garment sector such as Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Pakistan, and Indonesia, which were assigned tariffs ranging from 19% to 20%. This ensures Bangladesh's relative competitiveness in garment exports remains intact. On the other hand, India, having failed to reach a comprehensive agreement, received a 25% tariff, while Myanmar has been hit with a 40% tariff. Principal Secretary to the Chief Advisor Shirazuddin Mia has re-inaugurated Fatehpur Public Library in the afternoon today, located near the main gate of the University of Chittagong, which originally began its operations in 1975. The library has been closed for various reasons. Chairman of the Local Government Reform Commission Dr. Tufail Ahmed, Divisional Commissioner of Chattogram Dr. Mohammad Ziauddin, Deputy Commissioner Farida Khanam, among others, were present on the occasion. Following the inauguration, the library hosted a reception program for 73 outstanding students from the Fatehpur Union of Hattazari Upazila who achieved GPA 5 in the SSC and equivalent exams. The convener of the library, Inamul Haq, presided over the program. Speakers at the event emphasizing students' success as an achievement for the entire community hoped that these talented students with strong humanitarian values would work to advance the country. Later, the chairman of the Local Government Reform Commission and the principal secretary to the chief advisor inspected several historic ponds in Hattazari, including the Mahakobi Alaul Dighi, Muslim Dighi, Mojlish Bibi Dighi, and Nosrot Badsha Dighi. The principal secretary said necessary measures would be taken to renovate the ponds and reclaim paths that have been encroached upon. Thousands of New Yorkers showered their love on Didarul Islam, a Bangladeshi police officer who was shot dead by a gunman. Yesterday, 25,000 people, including 5,000 members of the New York Police Department (NYPD), along with dignitaries, attended his funeral in Park Chester, defying the storm and rain to pay tributes to him. Prominent figures, including the governor, mayor, and legislators of New York, participated in the funeral and highlighted Didarul's heroic sacrifice. Dr. Zakir Ahman, Imam of Parkchester Jame Mosque, said a Bangladeshi Muslim American, Didarul was known as a hard-working person. He considered it his duty to protect the United States, so he dedicated his life to this country and to everyone, he added. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said, "We do not know the words to comfort Didarul's family." NYPD Police Commissioner Jessica Tisk said Didarul had a sense of duty shaped by the belief that real meaning is found not in what we take from the world, but in what we give back. Now, international news. The Israeli military has killed at least 51 people in attacks across the Gaza Strip on Thursday, including at least 23 people while seeking aid. Israel's assault continued into the early hours of Friday morning, with at least 2 people killed and more than 70 injured while waiting for aid supplies near the Morak corridor south of Khan Younis. Gaza's starvation crisis shows no signs of abating, with at least 2 more babies and 1 young man dying of hunger under Israeli-imposed starvation, medics said. The hunger-related death toll since the start of the war on Gaza now stands at 154, including 89 children. Meanwhile, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee are set to visit food distribution sites in Gaza on Friday, the White House said. Slovenia became the first European Union country to ban imports and exports of arms to Israel and promised it will take more measures over the crisis in Gaza. United States President Donald Trump has signed an executive order reimposing reciprocal tariffs, ranging from 10% to 41% on U.S. imports from dozens of countries and foreign locations. Separately, Trump also signed an executive order later on Thursday that increased tariffs on certain Canadian goods, with the White House accusing Ottawa of failing to cooperate in curbing the ongoing flood of fentanyl and other illicit drugs entering the U.S. In a statement on Thursday titled Further Modifying the Reciprocal Tariffs Rates, the U.S. listed some 69 trading partners and their respective adjusted tariff rates. U.S.-bound exports from some of Washington's major trading partners, including Australia and the United Kingdom, will be subject to a baseline rate of 10%. Other key trading partners, including India at 25% and Taiwan at 20%, have had higher rates imposed as slow-moving trade deal negotiations with Washington continue. Most of the announced tariffs will not go into effect until August 7, except for tariffs on Canada, which go into effect on August 1. The White House said the delay will give Customs and Border Protection time to adjust to the changed environment. 16 people have been killed and 155 others have been wounded in a barrage of Russian drones and missiles that struck several districts of Kiev and brought down an apartment block overnight, officials have said. A 6-year-old boy and his mother were among the dead, as more than 2,000 locations across the Ukrainian capital were hit. Ukraine's Interior Ministry has said 2 children had died and 16 were among the wounded. Kiev's mayor said it was the biggest number heard in one night since the full-scale war began. Russian attacks have continued despite U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose tougher sanctions on Moscow if Vladimir Putin does not agree to a ceasefire by 8 August. Myanmar's military on Thursday nominally transferred power to a civilian-led interim government ahead of a planned election, with the junta chief remaining in charge of the war-torn country in his other role as acting president. An announcement in state media said a decree that granted power to the military after its 2021 coup had been cancelled and a caretaker administration had been formed alongside a special commission to oversee the election. The move signals no change to the status quo in Myanmar, with coup leader Min Aung Hlaing holding on to all major levers of power as acting president while retaining his position as chief of the armed forces. A nationwide state of emergency in place since the coup, which was due to expire on Thursday. After 7 extensions has now been lifted, said Zo Min Tun, a government spokesperson.